criminal charges on her. She was facing a year in jail and I think a $5,000 fine. That case took about 2 months of protesting. We started out at the city hall protesting, but nobody was there. They were all locked in. They wouldn't let us attend the city hall meetings. At one meeting, I took caution tape and wrapped it around the whole building because I thought people need to know what's going on in this wicked place. They need to take caution before they enter this building. Finally, we realized that the prosecutors were working from home. So we moved the protest to the prosecutor's home. We had a huge barbecue. Over 200 people showed up. We started with a church gathering and worship and barbecued all day. And the police were there and they kept saying, well, when are you guys going to leave? And I said, well, we're going to leave whenever they drop the charges on Kelli Carroll. Because this is America. It's not communist China. And if she wants to work, she's going to work. And nobody's going to stop her in America. She's violating nobody. And so that one we ended up being out there for about 15 hours before the prosecutor recused himself. And he ended up, the lead prosecutor took the case. And he came out to us that night and he said, Kevin McClure is recusing himself. I'm the lead prosecutor now. And you guys need to leave him alone. And we said, no, we're going to redress our grievances until we're heard. And we want to have a meeting with Kevin McClure. And Jonathan Young said, well, that's not going to happen. And I'm taking the case and I'm heading home now because the lead prosecutor had come to the house where we were at. This was just, I think, maybe 2 or 3 months ago now. So we all got in our car and we followed Jonathan to his house. And we moved the protest there that night. We had been there since 10 in the morning. Now it's 7 at night. We're just showing up to Jonathan Young's house. And so we stayed there until 10 o'clock when we were in the city limits. And, I try to honor like sound curfew, or not curfews, but sound ordinances, noise, especially in neighborhoods, because we get really loud. We play loud music and, we want kids to be able to sleep. So we left that night at 10 o'clock and we had to do that. I want to say we went back to his house maybe 5 times and protested, handed out flyers to his neighborhood to let the neighborhood know that he was prosecuting a grandmother for working and that we didn't support tax dollars going to prosecute grandmothers who work. And we had tons of rallies and whatnot. And then he filed Class B felony charges on me and People's Rights Washington. But the good news is the police had to watch every video I had done around the Kelli Carroll case. And most of these rallies I do are like 8 to 10 hours long. And these officers, I was reading the Discovery and they're like, the videos are so long, we have to save them in a separate type of a file drive because our storage can't handle all of these videos, 20 different videos that are 8 hours long. But they watched every single video and I make sure to be teaching and educating the entire time, talking about the police's responsibility, why the executive branch is separate from the legislative branch, why it's not the job of a police officer to uphold the law. That's not the job. It's the job of the police officer to defend and protect the Constitution. If it's only his job to uphold the law, then we don't have 3 branches of government because the legislative branch writes the law and the executive branch, which is the police, enforces the law. So if the enforcers say, well, I'm just doing what I'm told, the legislator told me to, then they've completely negated the purpose of having 3 branches of government that check and balance each other to make sure one is not violating the people. It also negates the purpose of an officer swearing an oath to uphold the Constitution if he's not going to uphold it and he's going to just simply say, well, the legislators told me to. That's not how America works. We're not under a dictatorship. So these officers had to watch all of this video. And at the end, the conclusion was for the team that was investigating, they said she does not meet the merits of the crime for harassment. While she has, essentially stayed repeatedly at these locations, she's made no threats. She's blocked no driveways. They step out of the car for vehicles. They clean up their mess. She repeatedly says things like, don't violate people's private property. Don't go near his bushes. Don't step on his lavender. He's got bees on his property. And so lavender kind of sticks out into the sidewalk. And so we try to make sure we're not walking on his lavender. Yes, he's a tyrant, but we're not tyrants. So we don't violate people's private property rights. So at the end of this 21-page report, the City of Vancouver Police Department said she doesn't meet the merits of the crime and no threats had been made at all. The only threat we made is that we're not leaving until they drop the charges. But there was never a threat like, I'm going to block you from leaving. You're not going to leave your driveway. I'm going to destroy your property. Those are threats that could actually bring Class B felony charges. And that never happened. So he tried that. As soon as I got that report, I went public with it, read the 21-page document, showed the people how the prosecutor was essentially using the City of Vancouver Police as his personal security. One day, 5 people from our group showed up to pray outside of his house. And they stood quietly. They didn't want anyone to know they were there. They didn't want it publicized. And he saw them, and within 5 minutes, he had 4 patrol cars show up in his neighborhood. And they are down the street on the corner praying. So we were able to expose how he's essentially wasting the taxpayers' dollars in a time where police aren't even responding to like cars being stolen and victimless crimes. They're saying we're not responding because of COVID. But here, people praying down the street from a tyrant's house now justifies 4 squad cars pulling up, police reports being written on these individuals. And so we went public with that and just kept exposing what he was doing. Kelly Carroll also had a great attorney filing motions within the court. And then on, I think it was June 30th, we got the notice that they were dismissing all charges on her. And that was a really great day. She was really scared to go to trial. Yeah, that was good. That was very good. But, you know, you look at these cases and you think, good Lord, like this is a lot of work for one person. And it is. But at the same time, that one person I was fighting for in 2016 was Ryan and Ammon Bundy and Shauna Cox, Neil Wampler, David Fry, the 7 defendants. And those 7 defendants being acquitted, look at all of the good they've been able to do since they were released. So if we just see that one person you fight for can be that person that's going to create waves and continue standing for liberty and be able to use those one cases as your victories that just really push you to keep going, then it just continues to spread and people remember the cases and then they want to take a stand too and help. Any questions so far? Sorry, it's kind of dark in here.
That's awesome. You're awesome. That's what Bob said. We all think you're awesome. So I had a question. So like we don't have anything like babies being taken, at least not in the people's rights group. And the issues that we're kind of dealing with are like the hospital, they're requiring everybody to take a COVID test for surgery. Yeah. And then that's something we kind of want to look into. And then the library is they're not allowing anybody to come in with without a mask and there's no exception. So they just did this $3 million upgrade on our library, and they're not, and it's like really nice kid area and everything, and we can't take our kids in there anymore because we won't let them wear a mask, you know. So we did protest there, and then they closed the library. So you know, and then we got backlash from the neighborhood saying that we closed the library and they didn't. So
that's good.
So they have opened up again, but we want to do, I don't know, we're kind of regrouping and seeing what to do.
Well, and our 13-year-old was saying that at the middle school and the high school, they've been suspending kids for not wearing a mask at school.
So at the middle school and high school, they've been suspending kids from school for not wearing a mask as well. So those are kind of what we're dealing with right now. I know you've probably seen all that in Washington, but this is new for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, my governor here is kind of leading the way along with Newsom and Brown, and then you guys seem to pick up and follow suit afterwards. But you know, I've been really bothered. Prisons have a place in my heart now after fighting for the prisoners that I did in 16 and 17 and seeing great victories. Prisoners have not been able to see their families in 7 months. Hospitals are not being allowed, nursing homes. You know, we have a really big problem right now in our country, and it's not a COVID problem, it's a courage problem. And so like with the situation with the schools, you know, if just a couple kids would film being suspended while not wearing their masks and be willing to publicize it, and then parents go and protest outside the schools, you know, it really, if you're going to do it, do a video, get it posted on the pages, you know, teach, educate.